Hi, Matt.
Hi, Kim. The way war is fought now, generals have a direct line of communication with each other and just about everyone they're commanding. But that was not the case in Gettysburg. They didn't even have time to set up the telegraph. So General Meade, whose headquarters was just over that hill, he had to rely on a group of men who were stationed at the highest points of the battlefield. How different the war would have raged had soldiers been equipped with the conveniences of our time: cell phones, wireless internet, or a camera with a zoom. But they still found ways to stay in touch with each other, using the best technology they could find: a stick and a cloth.
I'm kind of texting to another individual or another signal party is what we're doing with these flags.
The men of the Signal Corps helped keep Army units updated on the fast-changing events on the ground. They devised a code.
111.
A number was assigned to each movement the flags made, and by watching the movements and translating the corresponding numbers, messages could be passed silently across miles, an early long-distance call.
Without the Signal Corps, it might have changed the course of history for Gettysburg.
The Union Army had 4 signal locations on the Gettysburg battlefield, with the 5th General Meade's headquarters.
They're wigwagging, sir.
It was the primary receiver of the messages. The flaggers relayed marching orders and warnings, and since they stood at the highest points, they also served as 19th century intelligence agents, scouting enemy formations from their bird's eye view. But the members of the Signal Corps were never out of danger, and many times they were right in the middle of it.
They were the target. The signal man was the target. You knock out the communications, you stir things up.
On the 3rd day of battle in Gettysburg, Confederate sharpshooters hid in Devil's Den and aimed at the Union Signal Corps on Little Round Top, killing at least 8 of the men. And as flaggers, they usually did not even carry a gun.
Signal Corps was kind of unsung heroes.
In one case, flaggers signaled from Little Round Top the need for the Union to reoccupy the hill as they could see the Confederates advancing. The message went through. The Union soldiers arrived in time.
How they communicated and got the intelligence to kind of save Little Round Top is very important in the Battle of Gettysburg, to me. And that's a little known thing, but it's really cool.
Rex Lichtenfels is a Civil War buff and could have chosen to reenact an infantryman and experience the battlefield action. But there was just something about the flags, about a select group of men that served as the eyes of an entire army.
And we get to show what they did. That's a privilege.
And the Confederates also used a signal flag corps. They, in fact, were the first ones and only ones to use it for the first year of the war. But eventually, since both sides were using it, each side had to constantly change their numbering system so their messages couldn't get picked off. Kim?
It's really humbling. All right. Thank you, Matt.
Janelle, really was a remarkable event. And one of the things that struck me was a Confederate reenactor broke down in tears when he reached that Union line. He said his ancestors died on this field. And from just about anywhere you stood on Cemetery Ridge today, you could hear taps. That's because a group of Civil War bugler reenactors wanted to do something special to mark the climax of this battle on the 3rd day. So more than a dozen of them met up to play an echo of taps. They lined up starting at the high water mark of the Confederacy and spread out down towards Little Round Top, and one after one they played taps. Now here is the moment in its entirety to mark that clash between the Union and Confederate soldiers at Pickett's Charge 150 years ago. And what made that Taps tribute even more poignant at Gettysburg is that both the man who composed the bugle call and the first bugler to perform Taps served in Gettysburg. General Daniel Butterfield, the composer, was General Meade's chief of staff, and Oliver Wilcox Norton, the first bugler to play the song, was serving on Little Round Top. Both men survived the battle.
News 8's Matt Barcaro is live on the battlefield with a look at Civil War photography. Hi, Matt.
Hi, Kim. When you think about it, so much has changed in 150 years. For the commemoration, thousands of people are walking around carrying thousands of cameras, capturing moments that are made here thousands of times over. But there are no pictures of the actual Battle of Gettysburg. Outdoor photography was very uncommon in the 1860s, but thanks to a few photographers, we still can revisit the past in vivid detail. When you stare out into the vast views of the Gettysburg countryside, it's almost unnatural to picture the peaceful fields the way the survivors saw them, crowded with bodies, smeared with blood. But you don't have to imagine when you stand at the Rose Farm near the wheat field.
There. This soldier is lying right there.
Gary Edelman's love of Civil War photography brought him to Gettysburg, and he's able to retrace the steps photographer Alexander Gardner and his two crew members took as they documented the battle's aftermath.
More soldiers were photographed here than on any other Civil War battlefield, right here at the Rose Farm.
Of the 97 known photographs of Civil War dead, about 1 in 4 of them were scenes at Gettysburg. It's believed Gardner took the photographs on July 6th, days after these Confederates died. When the images were reprinted and distributed, they shocked the country. As one man said, it was as if the photographer brought death to our doorsteps.
They had heard that maybe war was glorious and you would see a soldier atop a parapet with a flag in his hand and he died maybe with a trickle of blood. Instead, when they saw these photos, they saw something very different. It was not glorious. The soldiers were alone. They were unidentified. They were bloated and grotesque. They were far from home. Anything but glorious.
At the time, some Americans saw the pictures as proof the war should end, but others, including Abraham Lincoln, saw in them a rallying call to say the war should go on, that the dead shall not have died in vain.
Go to the other side.
And all these years later, the pictures are still relevant.
See, there's his hand.
Yeah, interesting, man. Wow, that's really cool. It establishes the order.
The more they're analyzed, the more historical value is found hidden in them.
Since Gettysburg is so well documented with photographs recorded, a few days after the fighting, we can use those photographs sort of as a textbook as to what the battlefield looked like at the time.
And so the National Park Service has been able to restore the Rose Farm back to its 1863 appearance.
Right here.
And historians have been able to more precisely pinpoint where those photographers stood when they captured history.
So there's nothing like being out here under the same weather conditions that the soldiers experienced and using these photographs and learning about the battlefield now and then.
It shows the power of pictures, that only through documenting the dead can the carnage, sacrifice, and brutality of battle continue to come to life. And the Confederate soldiers whose pictures were taken at the Rose Farm were in those positions when the photographers arrived on the battlefield. But